You are Locked On Hawkeyes, your daily podcast on the Iowa Hawkeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Hawkeye Nation, to another episode of the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast, your daily podcast covering your Iowa Hawkeyes on the Locked On Podcast Network. As always, I am your host, Andrew Wade, and as we do after every single Iowa football game, win or lose, we are joined by former Iowa running back LeShun Daniels Jr. Before we get into that conversation, because we have a lot to talk about today, it was a very, very rough game watching that yesterday, and I think you all can probably agree with that. If you watched any of that game, losing 42-3 is never exactly a good time. Before we get to any of that, though, I want to thank you all for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. You can find the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast for free wherever you get podcasts at, and also on YouTube Monday through Friday, breaking down everything in the Iowa Hawkeye world. And this episode with LeShun is brought to you by Sonos. Sonos is the official sponsor of ESPN College Football. Go to Sonos.com to learn more. All right, LeShun, before we get into the game, how are you personally doing today, my man?
I mean, I'm good. I can't complain about too much. I was able to get out here and enjoy Indy with Iowa fans before the game, which I think was a good time. And the fact that people still show me love tells me that first thing, I'm not that old. And obviously the Hawkeye support is still great. So we're feeling all right.
I love it, man. I actually had a couple buddies text me like, yo, LeShun's talking right now. I'm like, that's cool, man. LeShun's awesome. Yeah. I like LeShun too. He's dope. They were very excited to hear you speak. So I got several text messages saying you gave like a speech at like a pregame festivity, and they were all very amped up to hear you talk. So I think the support for you is live and well, man. Hawkeye Nation is truly amazing.
Agreed.
Unfortunately, Hawkeye Nation's fan support and the fact that we travel incredibly well and drink a lot of Busch Light did not really roll over into the game time festivities. I want to talk about that today. Iowa losing 42-3. When I looked at this game coming into it, I felt like Iowa had to punch Michigan in the mouth early. I felt like you had to get a lead early. Otherwise, bad things could happen. Michigan is a better team. I think we could probably both agree with that even before we saw the final score. Michigan is a more talented team, and some of the things they did or can do is what Iowa is not good at doing. I thought Iowa came out strong, though. I mean, that first drive stopping Michigan, that we haven't seen them stop an offense on the first drive in quite some time. I mean, this defense loves giving up an opening drive touchdown. I thought Brian Ferentz, I know it was scripted, but called a beautiful first couple of drives. I mean, Iowa was moving the ball well. That halfback throw to Monty, I mean, what a beautiful play design. I mean, imagine if we hit that. I guess, what were your thoughts in the first probably 8 minutes of the game, sans Michigan scoring 2 ridiculous touchdowns?
Well, first, I mean, like we get the stop, and then we drive right down the field. Obviously, we got some help on that drive, but we go right down the field. Get in the red zone, and Brian calls it again. This is a great call. I mean, like at first I saw the toss, I'm like, running the toss at a shotgun, and the next thing you know, I look up, see Monty run down the seam. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're gonna score a touchdown right here already. And then see, it didn't turn out that way. Then it was a field goal, and then everything kind of just went downhill.
And we missed the field goal. We missed that field goal, and I was like, this is literally the worst case scenario of how that first drive goes. Like, that honestly to me is almost more deflating than a 3-and-out. Like, you were so close and you just don't get it. And then Michigan comes back. They put in their fast quarterback. They run they do a nice run play, just go right past us. We just can't do anything to stop it. Iowa drives down again. They get a field goal. Great. And then Michigan has a trick play that's literally almost the exact same thing as ours.
Same thing.
And we have no one within 20 yards of the guy. I mean, it's tough, man. It's very tough. I want to get your thoughts from a player perspective. Do you feel like if Iowa scores that, and obviously it's going to be a little different, but if Iowa scores that touchdown, do you feel like the outcome of the game is significantly different?
I mean, obviously how Michigan started to play, especially in the second half, I mean, Michigan still probably wins that game, but I feel like it's a much closer game. Because again, you put Michigan on their heels. Like basically, you let Michigan off the hook on that first drive by not scoring that touchdown. For like you let them off the hook for going 3 and out. You let them off the hook for driving in the red zone, right? Because if you're playing a good team, especially a team that's going to be ranked number 1 come this afternoon, you can't miss opportunities in the red zone, and we let them off the hook right there, and then they come right back, and then they hit an explosive play, right? Like that was literally Michigan's best case scenario after going 3 and out on offense. So momentum is a big thing in football, and momentum can swing very easily. And after that missed field goal, you could kind of feel it kind of go back towards Michigan. Just from the air kind of in the stadium a little bit. And yeah, I mean, it sucks, right? But I mean, it is what it is. That's just how football is, and that's how football can be at times. And when you miss opportunities like that, especially against really, really good football teams, it is really hard to come back. But yeah, I do agree that the game is definitely different. It's probably much, much closer because now you're already down by a touchdown, and now Michigan, you're like, oh, okay, well, we have to press a little bit more, because we are already predicted to win by double digits, and now we're down by 7 in the first after Iowa's first drive. So
it's definitely tough. I feel like Iowa came into this game, if I'm going to go to a boxing reference, kind of the underdog here, and they had to throw the knockout punch in the first quarter, and they had to land that knockout punch to have a chance at winning the game. Not like it was like, I'm going to throw a knockout punch and just get you off your feet and hope I can keep you there until the fourth quarter. And maybe it's a close game and maybe anything can happen. They tried that knockout punch and they didn't land it. And things went very downhill after that. I mean, when you look at the game, 42-3 was not indicative of how the entire game went, though. I mean, Iowa was 14-3 into the end of the first half, 21-3 going into the fourth quarter. I mean, theoretically, Iowa still had a chance in this game. Did you feel like any of the players in particular were pressing? And I have one guy in my head. I just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on any players particularly pressing in this game.
I mean, it's hard. It's hard for me to be able to say as much because again, I was there. Like it's harder for me because like you might miss something that kind of happened in on a play, and like sometimes they didn't show the replays and things like that. So I mean, I'm sure guys were. I know. I mean, just knowing from like the quarterback position, right? I mean, the guys were trying to make plays as well, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch people that were kind of anxious and trying to press and trying to do things kind of outside of their job. But I'm happy to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Charlie Jones, man. Charlie has been a phenomenal return man the entire year and a huge asset to the team. And once Iowa got down, he was just trying to make something out of nothing every time he touched the ball. And I have never seen him run backwards so many times. I cannot imagine he was going back on that sideline and LeVar Woods was like, good job, buddy. I can only imagine he was getting an earful each time. But the guy was just trying to make anything happen. But it also speaks volumes to this Michigan team. I felt like there was a lot more speed than I had anticipated across the board on offense. I mean, their backup quarterback was outrunning their running back, who was also outrunning our entire defense on that first touchdown run. Charlie couldn't escape anyone when he got the ball in his hands. It was rough, man. I do want to talk a little bit about the quarterbacks because that is going to be a really, really a terrible conversation that we are going to have to talk about for the next month, the next year. I'm not looking forward to a quarterback controversy over the next 8 months. It is not going to be an overly fun talk. Before we get to all of that, though, I want to remind all of you college football fanatics out there that PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know that you will too. Even if I got my butt kicked yesterday with PrizePicks, PrizePicks is a leader in college sports daily fantasy, and they offer more college football props than anyone in the world. And they offer all the star players of the Power 5 as well as mid-major players you might not have even heard of. PrizePicks also offers any prop you can think of, from yardage to touchdowns, even interceptions thrown. Here's how it works. You pick 2 to 5 players, you pick an over-under on their projections, and you can 10x your entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. And PrizePicks allows you to do mixed sport entries. You can use their award-winning app on the App Store or from Google Play, and entries can be made within 60 seconds or less. It is that easy. All of our listeners today also will get a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 when they use the promo code LOCKEDON, so don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. And again, y'all, I want to thank you for making the Locked On Hawkeyes podcast your first listen every single day. We're going to be here Monday through Friday. Win or lose, we're always covering everything going on in Iowa Hawkeye Nation, even this very, very rough weekend where Iowa falls to what's probably going to be the number 1 ranked team in college basketball, and then ultimately falls the number 1 ranked team in college football. It was not a great weekend in Iowa Hawkeye Nation, but we're covering it all right here. You can find us by searching Locked On Hawkeyes wherever you get podcasts at, and also on YouTube. LeShun, quarterbacks. Spencer Petras. I thought Spencer looked really nice and really good that first quarter. I mean, he was getting out of the pocket a little bit. He was making some really good throws. I liked the fact that he was taking shots as well. He was really keeping Michigan's defense honest. And that pass interference, I mean, that guy was mugging the heck out of Keegan Johnson as he was going down the field. I appreciated what he was doing from a quarterback perspective. After that first quarter, it kind of went downhill from there. Iowa makes the change to Alex Padilla. It sounds like there was a torso injury suffered by Spencer at some point. I honestly thought Spencer might have been concussed from when he got hit and they almost called targeting. What are your thoughts on the quarterback play and ultimately making that move to Alex Padilla? I mean, the gift that keeps giving, right? We never get to not talk about quarterbacks here.
I mean, it's tough, right? I mean, because Spencer's really been the guy for the entire year. And we started off the first quarter. I mean, I thought, he was doing some good things. Again, like you said, he was getting the ball out of his hands, taking some shots deep. Granted, we weren't really hitting on them. But then the second quarter came, and I felt like we didn't complete a pass. I felt like we literally didn't complete one pass in that second quarter. We were missing, really a bunch of easy throws. Again, I was never a quarterback, so they're probably not as easy as I think, but I felt like they were easy.
If you were thinking it, all of Iowa fans are thinking it too, man.
And then just based on his play, and if he really was still trying to battle through injury again, granted, I mean, he's a warrior, obviously, right? He's going to give his all, but that he was hurt. I probably would have made the change earlier, just done it at halftime, instead of waiting till basically the fourth quarter, practically, to make that switch. But really, it's quarterback position it's just really in a tough spot right now. I mean, there's no really other way to really put it. I mean, quarterback's in a tough spot right now. I mean, I feel like really with the past few years, besides like last year, we were obviously kind of spoiled having CJ, and then even Nate Stanley, right? I mean, he obviously did a really, really good job at quarterback, even though there are times where people were calling for his head. But like, I felt like those guys, did a really, really good job with the football, and were able to make big time plays. And I feel like that's just something where we are kind of missing right now. I don't know what it is. I'm sure it's a combination between, play calling and obviously Spencer's injury, and then, Alex not a lot of playing time. But, I just feel like the quarterback position is in a really, really tough spot right now. And someone's gonna have to take the reins, like, because you're not going to be able to keep bouncing back and forth between quarterbacks and things like that, because it's just, I don't think running a 2 quarterback system is really a productive way to run an offense, and kind of having that revolving door a lot. So it's just something that's going to have to be figured out.
Yeah, unless you're Purdue playing Iowa right after a win over Penn State, having a revolving door at quarterback is not a good thing. Credit to Jeff Brom for making revolving quarterbacks work against Iowa. One of the more obnoxious things I've seen in a while. The quarterback position is in a very weird spot. We're going to be talking about it for the next month. Is Spencer injured, or did Alex pass him up? And can either of these guys take Iowa to the next level? As you kind of mentioned, every Iowa Hawkeye quarterback, it doesn't matter who you are, there were calls to probably bench you at some point. CJ got those calls. I'm sure Ricky Stanzi, no one will admit it today, but I'm sure when he was throwing pick six after pick six in the early part of the Indiana game back in like 2009, people were like, get this guy out of here. He's garbage. And then he leads us back for a win. So, I mean, that's what's going to happen at that quarterback position. I have a question for you, and you don't have to answer. I know you obviously still care very deeply about this coaching staff and this program. Do you think changing offensive coordinators fixes this, or do you think this is always going to be somewhat of an issue under Kirk Ferentz and is amplified because of bad offensive line play and bad quarterback play? Now, that can also be a loaded question. It could be a myriad of factors, but I'm just curious. I mean, people are looking for Brian Ferentz's head after scoring 3 points. Now, I could make an argument there that they almost had a touchdown in the red zone. They missed a field goal and they had to go for it on fourth down against a tough Michigan team. Yeah, I know. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I feel like it's definitely a great deal. Probably, both sides of that, right? I mean, it's definitely probably both sides of it. I mean, again, as you've seen, the offense, of style has obviously kind of been the same the entire time since Coach Ferentz has been there. And, it really hasn't, I guess, kind of taken that next leap, I guess, in the direction that college football is going. It's still kind of staying like that old school type play, which, is perfectly fine. Teams kind of make it work. But I just feel like just the way that the game is moving right now, I feel like there's definitely different ways and probably more effective ways to, get players in better position to succeed, especially knowing kind of where our offensive line play was this year, and as well as quarterback play as well. It's tough to run our true style of offense, when we can't protect the quarterback, right? And we can't run outside zone to save our lives, right? Because those are really two big staples of our offense. Helping the quarterback be able to get into his drops, block long enough so that the routes can develop, and you can hit those intermediate throws to convert, some of the longer third downs. And then, again, outside zone is literally one of our staple plays. It's literally like the second play we put in when we install, right? And when we can't run those, and the creativity that we have, when we are calling plays, even whether it was with Brian, whether it was with Coach Davis, and we're not diving deep into the playbook besides of our scripted plays, then like issues arise, right, when we are in these battles like that, because then it just feels like everything gets stagnant, and then it kind of snowballs effect, right? A lot of times we were able to prevent a lot of damage, through the defense, and end up getting enough points to either keep it close or win the ball game. But when you're going against a team like that can create an explosive play basically any single time they're on the football field, and then you couple that with a stagnant offense that is at the bottom part of the Big Ten, it's just all a bad combination. So it's a combination, I feel like, of a lot of different areas of the offense right now.
Yeah, I feel like the football team, Iowa football team at least, is kind of in like a bend but don't break stance of, we can bend for most teams, but against good teams we break. Like, you're good enough to get there, but I don't think with this offense you're good enough to take that next step and win a Big Ten title. I just don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, unless you have phenomenal offensive line play and average to above average quarterback play, then you have enough to do some things. Like you look at the Michigan State game, Iowa versus Michigan State in 2015, we had the ability to make big plays. There's a reason why people are looking at that Tavon Smith touchdown on replay for all of time. We don't see that happen. We saw Spencer versus Nico, but holy crap, that was a once in the season type play call that Iowa hit perfectly at the right time, but we don't have that happening on a consistent basis. It's just not something that's been happening. I want to talk a little bit more about offensive line play because I have a couple interesting stats, and I also want to get your opinion due to the fact that obviously you've seen James's development as well, and he was a young offensive lineman in this Iowa Hawkeye offense. Before we get to all of that, though, I hope you did not take my betting advice on this game. I said hammer the spread. I thought there was no way Iowa comes out and craps the bet the way they did. I hope you all know I lost just as much money as you did at betonline.ag, but that is not always the case. You can win a ton of money at betonline.ag because they have more props, odds, and lines than ever before. As football season continues to march to the playoffs, we got bowl season right ahead of us. You can place all of your bets at betonline.ag. So head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website, sign up today, and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. From basketball, football, NHL, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline.ag, where the game starts. And if you haven't tried a Built Bar yet, what are you waiting for? I don't know how much I could empathize. Wow, I'm not even saying these words right. How good a Built Bar is. It truly tastes like a candy bar. It's filled with holiday goodness, rich with decadent flavor, and covered in 100% chocolate. And it's amazingly low in calories, sugar, net carbs, and fat. Plus, it's high in protein. You get the best of both worlds, delicious and healthy. I know it's holiday season. People are making cookies all the time. People are making all sorts of sweet desserts. You got grandma's cooking, which is probably terrible for you, if we're being completely honest. Probably uses real, actual fat in it, which is unheard of these days. Well, you can still get that delicious flavor while being a little bit healthy by grabbing yourself a Built Bar. Plus, they have so many new flavors coming out every single day. Make sure to check out BuiltBar.com. Plus, they have Built Bar Puffs, which is kind of like this marshmallow-ish flavor inside. And oh my gosh, truly delicious. So if you go to built.com right now, that's BUILT.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, that's LOCKED15, you'll get 15% off your next order. That's built.com, promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off your next order. All right. Blocking. You talked about it. It was tough. The tackles could not set the edge. What I thought was interesting was Iowa at certain times just felt like they knew they were not going to stop Aiden Hutchinson in this game. I have not seen a tackle chop block facing forward a defensive and just chop block and say, screw it. We're going to put him on his feet and not even try to block him more than I saw in this game against Aiden Hutchinson. And we even got called for a tripping penalty on it because we just did such a poor job of doing that. I mean, it was wild to me when I looked at the PFF grades of this, and we break down PFF grades every Tuesday because it's fun to do. You can put some context behind some of the numbers. What's interesting coming into this game, Aiden Hutchinson is a guy who could be a number 1 overall pick. On the other side of him, David Ojabo is a guy who could be a first-round pick. Jack Plum had a horrendous day going up against Aiden Hutchinson, had a 0 pass blocking grade, allowed 4 of Iowa's 8 pressures. Mason Richmond, on the other hand, a redshirt freshman, put together a very nice pass blocking day, one of the best on Iowa, held David Ojabo to a 59.9 pass rushing grade with 1 pressure. My question to you is this line, we've talked about the whole year how young it is. We have a true freshman at Connor Colby at guard. We have Mason Richmond, a redshirt freshman. Jack Plum, he's not a young guy at this point. I'm not giving him a pass there. He's been in the system for a while. Now, granted, he came as a tight end, but we've seen Robert Gallery come in as a tight end. We've seen other guys come in as tight ends, play well. This is a very long-winded backstory to this. You saw James Daniels, obviously, come in. He played early on as a guard and center for Iowa as a true freshman. What kind of growth can you make from a true freshman to your true sophomore to your true junior? Is there excitement in the air for the fact that Iowa does have a young offensive line that could get better, or is this an issue we're going to see next year potentially?
Well, obviously depending upon what Tyler decides to do, if he decides to stay or leave, obviously that's going to be big indicator, right, for how the offensive line is going to be able to be next year. But I mean, a lot of times offensive linemen take pretty big jumps from when they're true freshmen to their second and third years. In comparison where they were at freshman, right? They make huge jumps because, right, you get into through a full off-season program. You go, obviously you've already had a season under you now. Then you get into winter strength conditioning. You go through spring ball. You go through summer conditioning. Then you go through camp again, and there's a lot of time and a lot of development that happens there. And all freshmen are going to have like a game where they just kind of just get put in this position where they just are in a tough spot and just keep getting and losing. And eventually, if they keep working it better, like they get over that. Like, well, in 2015, when James was a freshman, I remember we had I think like two of our tackles got hurt. And we were playing Illinois, and then they threw James at like right tackle, and he had to go against what was his name? Something like Smoot or whatever, and he got drafted. That guy got drafted in like the third round. And again, James had a tough time blocking him, right? It's a lot of those things, growing pains that kind of happen, with freshmen. You get put out there against good players. But the best players are going to continue to, obviously use that as an experience and use that opportunity to learn from and be like, okay, how can I get better now? How can I get stronger? How can I get quicker? How can I just be an overall better offensive lineman? And knowing how Coach Ferentz' development with offensive linemen and strength staff development of offensive linemen has been over time. I mean, usually it's going to be good things, especially if you've been playing early, because then you add that additional experience. So I definitely think there's going to be good things to come, moving forward here for a couple of those young guys playing. But, obviously trying to replace some of these upperclassmen, if they decide to leave, is going to be, a tough position to be in for sure.
Yeah, I think Hawkeye Nation collectively is holding their breath thinking, is Tyler Linderbaum coming back or not? Because he, by all measures, should leave, right? I mean, this guy has a bunch of money on the table. He is going to be a top 15 pick. He's done everything he can do at the collegiate level. But if that pull, I guess, is pulling you back to Iowa and you really want to go, we'll welcome you back with open arms, buddy. But I would not be. I mean, I would completely understand if he leaves. It makes sense. I just don't see him coming back. Yeah, he should go.
He should leave.
But reports say he might not, and that's bizarre to me. I mean, I guess it kind of happened with TJ Hawkinson, but TJ finally woke up and realized, yo, this is a lot of money on the table. I gotta go get it. I gotta go get mine. Which is what you're. Yes, you love Iowa, but you gotta go get yours at a certain point. Otherwise, what are you doing, right? So if Tyler Linderbaum comes back, it'll definitely make this offensive line at least be as good, if not better. If he doesn't come back, I'm a little worried without the creativity we have on offense coming into the season. What is Iowa going to do? We're no longer going to have that big push up front like we've had for the last 6 years. I mean, it went from James Wright to Tyler, if I remember correctly. I don't think there was a center in between.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so
I think that was it.
That's 6 years of dominant center play. That's not normal in college football. So I know there's a couple. Michael, was there?
I was going to say even before Austin Blythe was there. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, another really good football player. Right? I mean,
NFL guy. I mean, he's still in the NFL.
It's tough.
It'll be interesting. We have Michael Mizelinski, who is his dad's. I think he was a strength and conditioning coach for the Jaguars. He does something for the Jags. He used to. He's a guy to watch out for next year at the center position. We could see some guys slide around, but regardless, you don't replace. You don't hit gold twice. You're not the Green Bay Packers. Iowa hit gold 3 times at center position. It just doesn't happen like that on a normal basis. That'll be really interesting to see. I want to talk about Iowa and the Citrus Bowl for a second, but before I get to that, I looked up your brother on the Chicago Bears profile. I just want to see how big he was now. 6'4", sounds like 327 pounds. You're his older brother. Who wins in a wrestling match? Is it you or James?
I still win. Without a doubt. Just know that I still win. Okay.
You
don't got. Nah. He might be bigger or whatever, but I think I'm honestly probably still stronger, to be quite honest. So yeah, I definitely got him.
All right, and who wins out of you, or you and your dad? If you and your dad were to wrestle, dad, maybe a little bit younger version of your dad, like 45.
I'm still taking me. I'm still taking me. No, dad was really, really strong in college. I know that he had set like some weightlifting records when he was at Ohio State, I believe. So like, I know he was a strong guy coming out of school, but I still take me.
I love it, man. I love it. All right. So the last thing I want to call out for the game is I thought the defense did play really well for the first 3 quarters. I mean, rushing. I mean, if you look at the pure statistics, this team did a pretty good job of holding their own against Michigan. Outside of the explosive play, I mean, they held Blake Corum to 74 yards. 67 of that came on 1 rush. They held Hassan Haskins, who is an all Big Ten running back, to 3.3 yards per carry. Chase McNamara had only 169 yards throw. I mean, like, they did a pretty good job, ultimately, all things considered, from the defensive perspective. They got put in some bad positions. Then they kept, Michigan kept getting the ball in good field position. They couldn't hold up forever, but I thought the defense held strong. There was one thing I wanted to call in particular. There was a rushing play, and Riley Moss is about to get just annihilated by the offensive lineman. Somehow dipped under him, got his hands on Hassan Haskins, and took him down for no gain. That was one of the most impressive tackles I've seen from a cornerback in quite some time. Before we move on to the Citrus Bowl, anything you want to say on the defense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you let up explosive plays on the defensive end, it's hard to combat that because, again, like, the offense stays fresh. They hit a play, and next thing you know, they're up by 7. And then next thing you know, they hit another one, and like the game kind of get away from me quickly. But I felt like, really kind of after those 2 explosives, they kind of buckled down for quite a long while, right? And I'm sure they probably felt like the pressure just building each drive after, offense couldn't produce anything. But, I feel like they did a good job. But then, obviously we get into the 4th quarter, and they kind of just, broke it open. Right? We couldn't set any more edges. We're letting up big plays now, and they are making some phenomenal catches like that one-handed one down in our end zone.
What are you gonna do about that? Yeah,
ridiculous. But
I believe Dane Belton was covering him, and like, he had perfect coverage.
Yeah, a ridiculous catch. I mean, but all things considered, I felt like the defense did a relatively good job. It's just when you let up big plays like that, I mean, it's just tough to come back from.
It's backbreaking. So Iowa had a chance at the Rose Bowl. I mean, they win this game, they're going to the Rose Bowl. They lose this game, they're more than likely going to the Citrus Bowl. We're going to find out today. So anyone who's listening to this on Sunday, we're going to find out today where Iowa is going to the bowl. What are your thoughts on the Citrus Bowl? What does Iowa need to do? And to finish off the season, I mean, we got to get a W there, right? Is there any thoughts on how you prep for the Citrus Bowl and what these players need to be doing to get better over the next 15 practices?
Well, first off, we got to get guys, some guys that have been playing a lot of football. This is really their time to get healthier and, take care of any injuries or any ailments that have been kind of lingering from the season. And
can I stop you there real quick? How much does Iowa hide some of that? Like, and I say hide, I mean, like, I think Iowa fans realize what players are going through, and then all of a sudden they're out and they're like, that guy wasn't hurt. I mean, like, how much of that do people not even realize is happening?
Yeah.
during a season.
I mean, it happens quite a bit. I mean, it happens. I mean, I'm sure there's a great number of guys that, right, if this was the NFL, right, would probably have a long injury list report, right, of guys that would have been listed as questionable, doubtful, and all that jazz. But, because you're not required to do that in the NCAA or Big Ten, you don't really know. And yeah, I mean, there's guys going through a whole bunch of things. I mean, you go through the training room during times when there's no meetings and practice. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys in there getting treatment on a number of different things. And then, if today was a normal day, so for example, if yesterday wasn't the Big Ten championship game, if it was regular season, right, they would have had guys that had to go in early, right, to get treatment and get looked at by the doctors and all these different things. And there's usually always a good amount of people in there as well. So like, there's always things and injuries and little element things that guys are going through throughout the season that really kind of gets hidden because if it's not necessary for people to know, right? They're just not going to know it, right? So a lot of it goes on, and you want to keep a lot of that stuff secret, especially if you can play, because why even bother letting other people know? So
do other teams target players in that regard? Like if, for example, let's say you hurt your wrist or whatever. This is a bad example. Let's say you hurt your wrist. Do teams intentionally try to hit you on your wrist or find ways to kind of, if they know about it?
Yeah, I don't know if they do intentionally. I mean, it may feel that way. Just because like you
hit
that
me.
body part hurts. Yeah, that body part hurts, and you're like, the dude was telling me. But I mean, I don't necessarily think that they do. They could. Again, I don't play defense. But they could do it. But for the most part, I think a lot of it just ends up coming just from the repeated hits that you take, and then feeling the effects of your injury. So
makes sense. I was asking about the Citrus Bowl and I cut you off, but I actually want to switch gears on the question. If Iowa wins the Citrus Bowl, do you feel like this season was a success?
I mean, anytime you can, first off, anytime you can win double-digit wins is fantastic, right? I mean, it's not easy to do. And to add another win to that win column and be in 11 wins. Again, there's only been a few teams in the KF era to win 11 games. So to be able to do that would make the season, obviously, really good. And even if we lose the game, right, the season was still really good, right? I mean, you still had a lot of highs throughout the season, but, as football is, there's going to be some lows as well, and there were. Unless you obviously just go 15-0 and win a national title, right? So I feel like the season is definitely a success anytime you can win double digit games, because it's hard to do. Iowa's the only team on the West to win 10 games, and going into Citrus Bowl again, you have an opportunity to get number 11, and again, going to go against another probably really, really good football team. So there's going to be things that are going to have to get cleaned up, things that are going to have to get shored up for us to go up there and be able to win. But, we come away with the win there. Again, it'll just add on to just another good Iowa football season.
Absolutely. We're going to go up against an SEC team. It'll be really interesting which SEC team we get. I know obviously the SEC likes to think they are the best conference in the world, and it can be very obnoxious. And we're going to see two SEC teams probably in the college ball playoff, which is also going to be quite annoying as well. But I digress a little bit. My last question to you, man, is do you feel like this team overachieved more this year than most KF teams do? I mean, anytime you talk about an Iowa football team, they do the little things, right? Like they're doing the things that don't show up, that people aren't really thinking, wow, that's pretty. Wow, it seems like not a lot of KF teams come in. People are like, that's a Big Ten champion team. Especially this year. I don't think people thought this was going to be a Big Ten champion team. So do you feel like KF and this team overachieved more than most years in this year?
See, I was actually thinking elsewhere, right? I kind of thought we were going to be around 10 wins this year. I mean, I knew that we had a good football team, but I thought the biggest thing, I thought the offense was going to be a lot better than really what it was. I think that's really been I guess the biggest disappointing part of the year. Granted, again, 10 wins is really, really good. And the offense and the special teams, for the most part, has been really, really good. But, I thought the run game was going to be a lot better, especially with Linderbaum and Goodson, right? I mean, I just felt like our run game was going to be better than what it was. So I guess in that area, I felt like it wasn't as good. But as far as like overall performance, I definitely, we're not going to say that they overachieved, but kind of were expect to be where I thought they were going to be. Especially knowing that how strong the defense in the back end was going to be. And obviously they were able to provide a big spark for a good portion of the year. But I wouldn't say that they necessarily overachieved, I guess, in my eyes. That's just kind of how I felt. So
I think that's a great perspective on it. I had Iowa at 9 wins. I think if you would ask me before the season had if I thought Iowa was going to go to the Big Ten championship game, I probably would have said no. But you're right. I mean, I had them at 9 wins. It's 1 win above that. That's not that significantly different. I did think the defense was going to be really good. I thought if the offense could be just adequate, we could win some games. And you know what? In some cases, the offense was adequate when we won, and when we didn't win, the offense was garbage, dumpster fire, atrocious. So it's been a weird season, man. And I've enjoyed all of our conversations. I've enjoyed learning from you about the game, learning from you about Iowa football, and excited to do it more when Iowa plays in what is more than likely the Citrus Bowl. Any last words or thoughts on this game or the regular season for Iowa football?
No, man, just obviously congratulate the boys for having a great year so far, and obviously the season's not over yet. Obviously this one stings. It's gonna hurt. I mean, getting beat down like that is never fun. So obviously it's gonna sting for a while because again you're not gonna play for a while. But guys will get over it. There are some good things that they can look back on from the season that they can enjoy, and then when they do get back on the practice field and get past finals week and everything, and get back rolling and get ready to take another opportunity that you get in the bowl game. Should be fun, but definitely want to congratulate the guys. A 10-win season so far is really, really good. It's very hard to do in college football. So, that's really pretty much it. And as always, guys, go Hawks.
I love it, man. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that. Excited to talk more Iowa football with you after that game. Excited to see the development of these guys. And I think trying to get slowly excited for next year as well. Next year is always right around the corner. This Iowa football team, depending on who comes back, I mean, this could be a team that is set to contend for years to come. They've had some really good recruiting classes coming in as well. I think when you look at this game, it leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. Maybe that's enough to convince a few guys to come back. Maybe Riley Moss wants to get his PCL healthy and maybe decides to come back. That would be wild if he did. I would be very excited. But lots of things are going to happen over the next month and next couple months that's going to really change the direction of the Iowa football team. So more to come on all of that. LeShun, as always, it's a pleasure having you on. Always enjoyed your insight. Hawkeye Nation, appreciate you tuning in every single post-game recap. It has been an absolute blast. We're going to start focusing a little bit more on basketball now and then doing some football before we get to the Citrus Bowl. But as always, you can find us Monday through Friday wherever you get podcast at. Hawkeye Nation, thank you all for tuning in. Have a fantastic Sunday and even better weekend as always. Let's